KBNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry. Construction generally begins to ramp up in the spring, and campus improvements at Utah State University are no exception. Work at the east entrance of Old Main is underway to improve landscaping and install new sidewalks at the west side of the quad. That project is scheduled for a completion in August. Ken Carrillo is USU's Director of Planning, Design, and Construction. He said work is now underway on a high-profile campus feature south of the Taggart Student Center, the fountain donated by the O.C. Tanner Company in the 1980s, which is being replaced because of excessive leaking.
Yes, we're actually just renovating the existing fountain, which really includes replacing the existing concrete with new. We'll put new mechanical infrastructure to circulate the water, and we'd had to take some of the landscaping out, but we plan to put it all back. We've salvaged some of the existing trees, which will be relocated on parts of the campus, but we'll be putting back new landscaping in and around that area.
He said work has been underway this spring to replace the artificial turf in both Maverick Stadium and at the Legacy Field south of the Spectrum.
The stadium is completed, and we're wrapping up the Legacy Field right now. The service life of that turf is about 10 years, and so Legacy Field is just right in that area, and it was about 10 years ago that we replaced the turf at the stadium. And so it was due, and we were actually able to get those projects pulled together as a single package, two different contracts, but the same manufacturer and contractor is doing both the projects for us.
Carrillo said his office is wrapping up work on a master plan on campus housing projects, which identifies timelines for the replacement of several older campus residence halls within the next 5 to 15 years. KBNU News Time is 5:07. KBNU Weather is brought to you by Whole Tree Care. They have a certified arborist on staff and the best cleanup crew around. Call 760-6587 for Whole Tree Care. Mostly clear tonight, low in the low 40s, sunny, mid-70s on Tuesday, and then lower 80s on Wednesday. It's 72 right now at KBNU.
Make laundry a snap with the large load washers and dryers at Mount Logan Laundry. Rather than 8 to 10 loads at home, get the job done in 1 or 2 with their 55 or 80-pound washers and 80-pound dryers that are perfect for sleeping bags, comforters, and other big items. Mount Logan Laundry has free Wi-Fi and drop-off service, plus they're open until midnight. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town. Find them at 5th East and 9th North in Logan or in Brigham City on the corner of 1st East and 7th South.
KBNU News Time is 5:08. With a new fiscal year less than a month away, members of the Logan City Council are considering a proposed pay raise for elected officials. On Tuesday, council members will consider a pay raise of more than $10,000 for Mayor Holly Daines and a pay hike for more than $1,500 for themselves. According to proposed ordinance 22-19, the mayor's compensation will jump from $102,452 approved last June to $113,721 plus a $6,000 car allowance. The same document set council members' compensation at $17,842 plus a $300 car allowance, up from $16,074 approved last year. In June 2021, Logan Finance Director Richard Anderson urged City Council members to accept a 3% pay bump as a necessary step toward bringing compensation of city officials into line with that of peer municipalities throughout Utah. This year's pay hike will boost their salaries by nearly 11% starting July 1st. The City Council will discuss the pay raise in a workshop session at about 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday. Barring some unexpected change, City Ordinance 22-19 will be approved at the City Council's next meeting on Tuesday, June 21st. And a woman is in critical condition after a crash on southbound I-15 that caused major delays in Salt Lake County on Sunday. KUTV reports the crash occurred at about 3:18 p.m. on southbound I-15 near Midvale and closed the I-215 eastbound ramp. KVNU News Time is 5:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Local news and the best talk. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Over the last year, COVID-19 vaccines helped us get back to a life that feels almost normal. But the virus is still out there, and there's still something you can do to protect yourself and those you care about most. When it comes to your health and the well-being of your family and friends, don't let your guard down. Get vaccinated and boosted for COVID-19 to keep your protection going strong. Find a location at coronavirus.utah.gov.
At Red River Health and Wellness Center, we utilize non-pharmaceutical approaches to help patients with challenging autoimmune and thyroid conditions. And because each person is unique, we design custom care plans that focus on the individual. Our goal is to improve health, well-being, and quality of life. We work in conjunction with your prescribing physician for an optimal outcome. Call Red River Health and Wellness at 855-55-RIVER, with offices in Logan, South Jordan, Springville, and St. George.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. Wounded Warrior Project was created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war, whether those scars are physical or mental. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
I think it's just vapor.
Vaping is safer than smoking, isn't it?
There's really not even that much nicotine in them, right?
One vape pod has as much nicotine as one pack of cigarettes.
My kid
knows it's dangerous.
5.4 million American kids vape, and most think it's harmless. Get your head out of the cloud. Talk to your kid about vaping. Visit talkaboutvaping.org. That's talkaboutvaping.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Hour 2 of today's show. It is Monday, June 6th. I'm Jason Williams. Bill Walter here in the studio as well. And I actually, I said it the exact opposite in hour 1, promoting this interview. I had said, you know it is District 2, it's going to be it's the opposite. You know it is District 3, it's going to be District 2. That's what this current primary election is all about, deciding the Republican nominee for that District 2 race, redistricting, changing the numbers just a bit on the state legislative district maps. So, again, we've known it for a while now as House District 3, the northern part of the valley, roughly, and it is a race for the future representative of that seat, which by that time, again, will be House District 2. So, if there's any confusion on that, in this Republican primary, which, by the way, ballots are going out starting tomorrow here in Cache Valley for this primary, and I would guess the county clerk's office might be receiving some of them back even before the end of the week. So it is underway. Primary date is June 28th. Your ballot must be postmarked by the day before if you're going to mail it, Monday, June 27th. If you don't mail it by that date, you're going to need to drop it in a drop box or take it in person to the county clerk's office on Election Day, June 28th. Do not mail it on Tuesday, June 28th. Okay, with the technical side of things out of the way, we're going to be spending a lot of time this week talking to candidates, spotlighting candidates. And the first candidate to join us in this week of candidates is a former state lawmaker and candidate in this Republican primary, Val Potter. And Val, appreciate you taking some time for KVNU today. It's been a few weeks since we had a chance to speak with you. Our fault, not yours. Kick us off here. Tell us how the campaign is going. What are you hearing from potential voters out there? What's on everyone's mind?
Thanks, Jason. Great to be here. The campaign is going well. We've had some good people helping. My wife and I have done a lot and to get the word out. Talk to people about what my plans are, what I hope to do, and some of the changes we feel need to be made in House District 2 position.
This is, I joke about this here on the show, Val, all the time because everything in my mind right now keeps coming back to growth. Everything we're discussing, every bill that came up during the legislative session, my mind is looking at it going, oh, that relates to growth. Oh, that relates to growth. But that's just one of a handful of things that voters are really concerned about right now, right?
Absolutely right. If you're ignoring the growth, I don't feel you're doing the job or doing it adequately. There's a lot of issues to be aware of. Housing, water, ag, the land use planning for the future, city growth, all of that factors in.
And for you as a former state lawmaker, of course, you were probably working on these type of things while in the legislature. From your perspective, have things really? It seems to have hit some sort of breakneck pace. Just observing, is that your take as well?
It is. When I was there was some discussion. I was on the Housing Affordability Commission, assigned by the Speaker, and I learned a lot there. There is some major growth issues happening in the state, and if you're ignoring that or you're trying to blow that off, I think you're doing some damage to the people you're there to serve. I think in the last 2 years, the legislature is finally recognizing that these growth issues are for real. As a body, they're seeing that, and they're making some positive moves in the right direction, I feel.
Sure.
The agriculture, the water, things like that are becoming frontline issues.
Sure. This is, and you mentioned, housing prices there. I was, Val, over the weekend up in Idaho, and I realized this isn't a Utah thing that's happening up there, too. I talked to some individuals, but here in Cache Valley, I've heard quite a bit, from folks who said, well, we were thinking of maybe selling and moving somewhere else or building our own, and then, this environment sets in, and now, if we were to sell, we can't afford to buy something new. As a candidate for the legislature, as someone with, years of experience in the legislature, what can the legislature do? I mean, what are the options that they have available to them as a state legislature to tackle something like the current housing price situation?
Well, there are a few things. I know there's a lot of people out there that want Cache Valley to remain just the way it is today, and I'm one of those. I'd love to see it remain just the way it is. The projections, however, and over the next 30 to 40 years, it's going to double, and I can't even imagine how you'd fit twice as many people into this valley. But the issue becomes we have had children and grandchildren, and a lot of them find out Cache Valley is a great place to live, and so they want to be here. So we have to find a way. The thing that the legislature can do, I was involved in some of that when I was in the legislature. We did pass a bill that gave the cities 23 options to consider for opening the door to more planning options for their city. There were just some cities that were refusing to change zones or offer any opportunities for new growth. What this does is it gives them an option to suit their city and plan for the future, but open their minds to what's available out there, whether that's auxiliary housing on properties, whether that's allowing for the dare I say, mother-in-law apartment within the homes, change in zoning, open for different options for zoning. Those are some of the things that we looked into when I was there. And I think that's continuing with the legislature because we have to do something to prepare for the future. Again, not my mistake, not my problem, but it is my problem from the standpoint that I hope to be here, and somehow we have to accommodate our friends and family who want to be here.
Sure. That's, I say to people all the time, we can avoid all of this if we start kicking everyone out when they turn 18. If you don't want to do that, we've got to grapple with this in another way, right? That's the reality.
Right. I've heard we should lock the gates at the top of Sardine and not let anybody else in.
That's right. It's it's going to be an interesting few years, and Val, you talk about through your campaign materials I'm looking at here, and for listeners, if you want to check in with the campaign, find out where you can meet Val, upcoming events, including an event Friday, a debate style event. There's a lot, and it's happening more quickly than you think. Again, primary election day is June 28th. Ballots are going out this week. So you can find Val Potter for Utah House, the Val Potter campaign, and connect with Val via their campaign Facebook page. You can also visit votepotter.com. That's with two T's, P-O-T-T-E-R, votepotter.com. I've linked to both of those on our Facebook page if you're driving now and want to find those later there, if that's a bit easier. But Val, you say that one of the reasons that you're running here is to go to the legislature and not only represent Cache Valley. That's obviously the job that you're running for, but to make sure that as these debates, like we've just discussed, debates over housing prices, housing policy, things like that, the Cache Valley values are it speaks to this idea that what might be a solution for Salt Lake City or the Wasatch Front, it's going to be very different up here, right?
Absolutely. It's a different world up here, and we want to keep it different. We want to keep it unique. We want to keep the open space, the agricultural feel, and the agriculture. We need to take care of the water that we have here and not let it run downstream either to Weber or to Salt Lake or to the Great Salt Lake. We need to access the water that's our shares, and that's something that the legislature has not done well in the last year. I really feel like we need to pay more attention to that. And my opponent, frankly, has not paid attention to those matters, is not open-minded to the issues at hand, is not listening to the people here. And
this is a key time for that. As we've been discussing, there's a lot happening and a lot changing. This is, speaking of connecting and all this, Val, your campaign just earlier today released a lengthy list of endorsements. But I noticed on this list, being a bit familiar with them through the show here myself, pretty much every mayor and representative of city in the district, in the northern part of the valley there. What are you hearing from them? What are cities worried about right now as we watch all this change kind of loom over us?
The thing I've heard over and over again the last year is that the legislature in general is not listening to the cities, and I think there was something like 35 bills that came out this year in the legislature, and they were bills meant to restrict what cities and counties do.
Sure.
That's not their business. That oversight, the government closest to the people, the mayor and the city council, is the government I feel is most important, and they should make decisions for their own community. The legislature has oversight over the state budget, making sure that things are operating there. But there's been many, many legislators that are trying to overstep that and tell the mayors and the county commissioners what to do. That's the frustration I hear from them, is they're not happy. The legislature is not listening and not making the decisions that leave them alone, but yet do the right things for the state of Utah.
Sure. It was a noticeable trend in the legislative session, and I'm happy that you as a former lawmaker spotted that as well. It would be nice to see that turn around a little bit. The upcoming session, of course, water, drought, housing, growth, all these things are going to be a part of it. Is there anything outside of these, these big issues that are understandably dominating most conversations these days that, if elected, you'd like to take to the legislature? Do you have any, pet issue bills or anything in mind right now?
Right now, specifics, I won't share specifics that I'm working on, but overall I talk about the three main areas: law enforcement, public safety, public education, and local government. I mentioned local government. I feel like a lot of times we feel like the police are there, the cops are there, they're happy, just let them do their business. The problem is there's a lot of problems happening with law enforcement statewide and corrections.
Sure.
And we're ignoring those. They're hurting in a big way, and we need to pay more attention. And I've done that. I ran a number of bills. I passed a number of bills when I was in the House, and I intend to do more of that. But also education. I think it's evolving. It's ever changing. We need to respect and take care of our teachers, but we also need to make sure that the students and the parents understand what's happening and are buying off on the direction of public education overall.
This is, going to be a bit out of most people's wheelhouse, but it ties in with several programs running at USU and Weber State. Your time in the legislature, you served on a specific committee, and you, well, I'll keep it short. You were able to sort of advance, I'll use the word create, though you may not, something called the Center for Advanced Materials. And I was just reading about this week, with the infrastructure money coming to the state, with the state having to decide where to put this. This Center for Advanced Materials is actually getting its chance in the spotlight now to say, "Hey, we have some great ideas," right?
Yeah, exactly right. That was something I worked on for 2 years before we finally had the funding to make it happen. But what it does, it takes care of the need for the composites industry and advanced materials that are needed in the aerospace industry. Of course, Northrop Grumman was the driving force behind that, but there are a number of different companies that needed people coming through college, bachelor's and master's level students that understood this and could take those jobs and further advance what we're doing with aerospace and keep those jobs in Utah rather than sending them somewhere else. They're high-paying jobs, they're great jobs, and students need to be aware of them and have the training, the professors, the materials, the equipment to understand what they're doing to take those jobs.
Val, absolutely appreciate being able to get your perspective on some of these things. And again, kind of fun to see that because I remember the legislative discussion years ago. Fun to see that center get a bit of spotlight when it comes to deciding, how best to invest in infrastructure. So for you, final thoughts for listeners?
And let me just cut you off for a second.
Oh, go ahead.
That's actually between Utah State and Weber State. The two universities are sharing the responsibilities. Some are doing bachelor's, and I think Weber is doing the master's program, but it's exceptional. So go ahead.
It's very cool stuff. This is, seeing the rubber meet the roadway when it comes to legislative action. Just wanted to spotlight that a bit. For you, though, as you're campaigning for listeners out there, before we part ways, a last question for you: how can people get in touch? Where would you recommend? What is your preferred way for people to reach out to you and ask questions, things like that? Again, we've got the website, votepotter.com, and listeners, again, I've linked to that on our Facebook page. You can also find Val Potter for Utah House, the campaign Facebook page. But you have events planned and things like that?
Well, yes. We have let's call it a solo debate on Friday because my opponent wouldn't accept the party's invitation to have a debate with me. I feel like as an incumbent, he should have done that. I did it 2 years ago with him, was happy to do it, so he's avoided that. We're doing it just as an opportunity for me to answer questions that are submitted and for me to explain why I want to do this again, why I think it's necessary, and a little bit about my platform and so on.
Well, hats off to you for attending the debate. That's something that I think is a reasonable expectation for candidates and elected officials. So I'll give you those kudos there for being there for the public as well. I'll make note of that. Watch our Facebook page for dates and times. And
it's not, Jason, it's not just me. I've had a number of people contact me saying, when are we going to see both of you debate? And I said, I've accepted a number of debate dates, and nothing has come of it. So and I've been told my opponent won't meet me. So that's unfortunate.
Very unfortunate.
But I'm happy to come before people and explain where I'm at. My email is val.potter@comcast.net. And my phone number is also on my website, so I'm happy to say it's 435-757-9834. Email or call me, and I will answer and get back. Or if I don't, I will get back to you right away. That's my promise to you.
Very nice. Val Potter, candidate for Utah House, former state lawmaker, seeking that seat. That, again, just reminding everyone, will change numbers. We've known it as Utah's 3rd House district. It will change to Utah's 2nd, from Utah House 3 to Utah House 2, due to the redistricting process last year. So this race is for that Utah House 2, northern part of the valley, roughly. And the primary date, again, June 28th. Ballots will be hitting your mailboxes this week. So if you are unsure, would like to get to know the candidates, Val and others, as Val said, he is making himself available. It's unfortunate to hear that others aren't. That debate event on Friday, reach out to him via his cell phone number or email address right here on his Facebook page. And again, you can find that searching Val Potter for Utah House, or visit votepotter.com. And our guest, again, has been candidate in this Republican primary for Utah House 2, former 3, Utah House 2, Val Potter. Val, a pleasure to have you here on the show, and thank you for making the time.
Thanks, Jason. I appreciate it.
We'll speak again soon before the primary is over, I'm sure. And one more time for listeners, Val Potter for Utah House on Facebook, valpotter.com, the website. I've linked to both on our own Facebook page if you're driving and need to find it there later. And we'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
The temperature's warmer, and here at Alpine Home Medical, we couldn't be happier to serve you as we mark our 25th anniversary this spring. Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent, and I want to thank you for being the best customers over the last 25 years. We couldn't have done it without you. If you've shopped with us before, thank you. If not, we want to make sure that we're your one-stop shop for all your home medical needs. You'll find the most selection and best quality products. Check out our power scooters for better freedom to help you move around and get you where you need to go easier. With compression socks, CPAP supplies, and incontinence products, our resupply team ships discreetly to your home, where you need it, when you need it. You get it all in unmarked boxes to protect your privacy. Alpine Home Medical has 10 locations across Utah and southern Idaho to serve you. Visit us online at alpinehomemedical.com. That's alpinehomemedical.com.
This is Ryan, My Mattress. I have a little bit of a bone to pick with online bed-in-a-box mattresses. If value is the combination of price and quality, these beds are not a good value. They cost about $1,000 and they last about 3 years. That's not a very good ratio. At My Mattress, you can get a $799 Sealy Posturepedic that will last you 10 plus years. The best value is at My Mattress. Isn't it time to sleep exceptionally?
Hi, I'm Jennifer Kushinka. Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News, why we are deeply pessimistic about the economy and view the nation as sharply divided over its most important issues. What you need to know to get your household debt under control, and some tips to help you become less scatterbrained. That's Tuesday on This Morning, America's First News.
From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
Looking for ways to serve but don't know where to begin? Go to justserve.org, a free site to help those who want to serve find opportunities nearby. Just Serve has teamed up with organizations nationwide. Go to justserve.org and type in your city, and you'll see a list of service opportunities. Sign up on Just Serve to receive emails letting you know about new projects. Just Serve is fast, free, and easy. JustServe.org is provided as a service by The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Again, a debate event planned this Friday. I've been asked to moderate myself, as we just learned from Republican candidate there, Val Potter, former state house lawmaker. His opponent apparently is declining to be a part of this. That's unfortunate, but the event will go on. And again, we're asking our listeners to send their questions in. If you have a question for Val Potter, kvnuftp@gmail.com. And we'll have details on this event. By the way, I love this. This is events being organized by just Republican Party activists. This isn't, they're taking it upon themselves to make sure the candidates are accessible, and I like that. So we'll have details and times. It's for sure Friday, but the time and location is still being nailed down between 3 different choices. And we'll make sure our listeners' questions get priority, of course. We always do that. So send them in, kvnuftp@gmail.com. Thanks again to Val Potter for making the time, making himself accessible. It's important candidates do that. If you want to know more, I've linked to them both on our Facebook page, but you can simply search Val Potter for Utah House on Facebook or visit his campaign website, Vote Potter, Potter, votepotter.com. Coming up, it's the 78th anniversary of D-Day today, and the United States Army dropped something really interesting that has, to my knowledge, has not been widely available publicly before. It's not been classified, but this is the first time they took it all, put it in a lengthy, about 40-minute long video. Got some highlights of it. It is clips and descriptions and even personal testimonies of not only veterans that were there for the celebration in France today, but also some of them as they went through training before D-Day actually happened. It's honestly amazing to hear, so I hope you'll stay tuned to do just that. The 78th anniversary of D-Day celebrated in France with some new stuff released from the archives by the United States Army. That's coming up after these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:36, and the news is brought to you by the Duck Hunter. A 21-year-old Cache County man drowned Sunday afternoon in Foster Reservoir, north of Preston. The incident was reported at about 5:30 p.m. near the south shore of the lake along Highway 34. Franklin County Sheriff David Fryer said in a press release that Franklin County dispatch operators first received a call reporting the possible drowning. The caller said an adult male was on a small raft and had tipped over approximately 30 yards from the shore. A witness saw the victim struggling in the water for a short time and then was not seen again. Fryer said an on-duty law enforcement personnel arrived on scene but was not able to locate the 21-year-old. The Franklin County Sheriff's Office, Franklin County Search and Rescue, Ambulance, Fire District, Preston City Police, along with Idaho Fish and Game, were all dispatched to the reservoir to join the search. The victim was located and recovered at approximately 7:30 p.m. The name of the victim was withheld pending notification of family. Fryer said the Sheriff's Office was extending their thoughts and prayers to the victim's family and friends after the tragic accident, and investigation into the drowning is still underway. A child has died after officials said she drowned in a swimming pool at Ogden Golf and Country Club. Police said they were dispatched to the scene at 4197 South Washington Boulevard at about 6:20 Friday evening. They said 911 callers reported a 10-year-old girl was found underwater in the club's pool. CPR was performed by witnesses and first responders when they arrived. The girl was transferred to McKay Hospital, where she was pronounced dead. No other information was initially released, including the victim's name. The investigation is ongoing. 2 people died after a T-bone crash that involved a tour bus near Zion National Park. Officials said an SUV was traveling southbound on Kolob Terrace Road at the intersection of Highway 9 at about 4:45 Sunday afternoon. According to a press release, the driver of the SUV stopped for a stop sign at the intersection and then, for reasons still unknown, pulled out onto Highway 9 in front of a westbound tour bus. Officials say the tour bus driver was unable to avoid the SUV and struck it in a T-bone collision. Both occupants in the front seats of the SUV, an adult male driver and adult female passenger, were pronounced dead at the scene. A juvenile girl in the SUV was ejected from the vehicle and transported via ambulance to the hospital. A juvenile boy, who was also in the SUV, was transported via life flight. Officials said the family appeared to be non-Utah residents on vacation. The tour bus driver, the guide, and all passengers on the bus were cooperating with the investigation. Minor injuries were reported with tour bus occupants. KBNU News Time is 5:40.
Did you just build a home or remodel your current home? Well, if so, John at the Duct Hunter says you should have your heating ducts cleaned as soon as possible and change out to a high-quality furnace filter. The dust from construction, sawdust, drywall, and more is sitting in your duct work. Your furnace filter is probably clogged. You'd be surprised what John has found in air ducts, toys, construction debris, and rodents. Let the Duct Hunter clean the ducts today. Call for a free consultation. The Duct Hunter, 770-4813.
We are the Duct Hunter. Breathe better, save money, protect your home. We are the Duct Hunter.
KBNU weather for tonight, mostly clear skies, overnight low in the lower 40s, sunny mid-70s on Tuesday, into the lower 80s on Wednesday. We've been into the low 70s today. Our high temperature has been 72. It's currently 72 degrees at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Napa Auto Parts. They have the items you're looking for, the parts you need, use, and rely on every day, plus hard-to-find items you're looking for, like different types of weights of oil from Rotella 15-weight 40, Dello 15-weight 40, and Rotella T6 5-weight 40. It's in stock when you need it at your 5 locally owned Preston to Providence Napa Auto Parts stores. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Happy Father's Day from Birch Creek Golf Course. For Dad this Father's Day, choose Birch Creek. Our 10 9-hole punch passes are on sale, or get Dad a gift certificate that can be used for golf or golf lessons from our PGA teaching staff. Visit our virtual pro shop at birchcreekgolf.com for Dad this Father's Day and have your purchase mailed to you or Dad. So for Dad this Father's Day, I invite you to choose Birch Creek Golf Course in Smithfield.
Thank you for voting Adams Wealth Advisors the gold winner for Best Financial Planner in the Best of Northern Utah competition. Understanding your family, jobs, and goals is how Adams Wealth Advisors will continue to earn your trust.
This is Craig Adams. At Adams Wealth Advisors, we are here to help you receive peace of mind whether you've done a lot of planning or a little planning. Count on our team at Adams Wealth Advisors for honesty, professionalism, and integrity.
Visit AdamsWealthAdvisors.com or call 752-1702 to schedule a time with an advisor today. Please see AdamsWealthAdvisors.com for more information on these recent awards.
Along the eastern shoulder of the Cherbourg Peninsula, the beaches of Normandy are strung. The chilly waters of the channel reach quietly up the sand, which is today as it should be. A place where people go to spend a holiday afternoon with a cool sea breeze. There are lasting reminders, however, of a time when these beaches were not so hospitable. Where the neck of the peninsula joins the Normandy coast lie the beaches American soldiers remember. Utah, the westernmost one, was called. On the other, Omaha. Further east, the beachheads the British soldiers can never forget. Gold, Juno, and Sword.
Just a bit there from the United States Army film produced in the late 1940s, part of the Smithsonian archival footage now. I've linked to this on our Facebook page if you'd like to watch the entire thing. It's about 40 minutes long, and it's comprised of, again, military videos that were produced, actual documentary film as well, and all of this getting a spotlight today on the 78th anniversary of D-Day, as it's known. Some reports out of Europe, World War II veterans and other visitors gathered in a huge event in Normandy Monday morning to pay tribute to what was about just over 160,000 troops lost from Britain, U.S., and even Canadian soldiers in this D-Day event, and also from elsewhere. Other soldiers from other Allied forces landed. Several 100,000 people were in attendance at this ceremony today. It happened at the American Cemetery, which overlooks Omaha Beach in the French town of Colleville-sur-Mer. And this year's D-Day anniversary, of course, attracted a larger crowd than is even normal. These always draw a big crowd there in France when they happen, but larger crowd than normal this year after 2 successive years of COVID-19 pandemic restrictions actually deterring visitors in large events like this in France. So these celebrations to pay tribute to those who fought in the war at large, but also were directly involved in the events of D-Day. U.S. Air Force aircraft did a flyover over the American Cemetery there in France during this commemoration ceremony today. And Army General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Milley, it was the final, remarked during his speech that it was the final resting place of about 9,300 plus personnel who died fighting on D-Day in the operations that followed. So again, only about just over 9,300 of the soldiers killed that day were actually recovered and buried there at the American Cemetery. This is obviously, a huge event in the events of World War II at large, but it's also, I think, one of the most widely remembered events of the war for a lot of different reasons. The night before D-Day itself, well, I mean, this happened even the night before the anniversary today. Veterans and families and the French who welcomed them, all these international visitors, stood in freezing rain weather to take part in a series of events marking the 78th anniversary of the Normandy landings. And there were many representatives of living veterans, of course, but also representatives of veterans' families. And a news station in France, let me make sure I get this right. This is translating it here. It's French, or France 24 is how it would translate. That is a local news station in the area where these celebrations happen. They produced a report on the ceremonies last night and today there in this small town in France.
A reenactment parade in St. Mary-Glise, one of the first French towns to be liberated from Nazi occupation in World War II. The event, part of annual D-Day celebrations. As townspeople lined up to show their gratitude, returning D-Day veterans say the experience is bittersweet.
I remember some good friends that are lost there. It's a little emotional then.
78 years ago, on June 6th, some 160,000 Allied troops landed on the Normandy coast at beaches codenamed Omaha, Utah, Juneau, Sword, and Gold. Veterans, their families, and visitors braved the rainy weather to pay their respects to those who fought and died during Operation Overlord.
The first thing we remembering are the poor lads that didn't come back. We were lucky, but we think about that, all those poor lads that didn't get off the beach that day. That day was their last day, but they're always in their minds.
For some, this year's commemorations hold special meaning as Europe is again at war after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Mary Scott, who served as a coded radio transmitter, reflected on the fighting there.
Why can't we learn from past experiences? Why can't we do that? What's wrong with us? War should teach us something, but it never seems to penetrate for very long.
After 2 years of pandemic restrictions that curtailed visitors, several thousand people are expected to attend this year's events.
Again, that report from France 24, a local news station there in the area. And this, again, all being celebrated around the world, the anniversary of D-Day. But some amazing stuff out there from these ceremonies as they took place. On D-Day, Allied troops landed on the beaches, again, codenamed Omaha, Utah, Juno Sword Gold, and there were more than 7,000 boats involved in just getting the 160,000 plus soldiers there from Allied forces. And on that one day, 4,414 Allied soldiers lost their lives just in that one morning of D-Day. 2,501 of them were Americans, and more than 5,000 more were wounded. And then, of course, the battles continued throughout the day and into the next day, and again, close to 10,000 people are actually buried there, soldiers actually buried there at the American Cemetery in France. On the German side, this isn't widely discussed when it comes to D-Day, but several thousand Germans were also killed or wounded in this. And one veteran who was there in that news story you just heard, he's in a wheelchair in his 90s, and he was among about 20 World War II veterans who were actually there for the parade, for the D-Day ceremony today, and was part of it. This included military vehicles and thousands and thousands of bystanders watching as it went past. And it was really, you see the video from this, it was kind of a happy celebration, which, I don't know, stands in contrast to what it is that we're memorializing with these things. But this veteran in the wheelchair, quoted there in the story, said he wasn't going to hide his pleasure. He said, seeing people happily waving in the crowd, seeing parents explaining to their children what this was all about, recognizing World War II heroes and their children, their families that have continued on after their deaths. Wallace said history buffs wearing military and civilian clothes, he said all of it was important to him. Another veteran, 82-year-old Dale Thompson, also in that video of that news story you heard, he continued outside of the video, quoted in the story here, which I've linked to on our first page. He was visiting the site over the whole weekend, and he traveled from Florida with his wife. He served in the 101st Airborne Division of the U.S. military in the early 1960s, and he was stateside, saw no combat. He said, being there to walk amid the thousands of, quote, marble headstones, he said, all I could wonder is how I would have reacted had I been one of these soldiers actually getting out of one of those 7,000 or so boats that morning on D-Day. He said, I tried to put myself in their place, and I don't know that any of us could be as heroic as these people were. And finally, marking D-Day here on the show ourselves, leave you with just a bit more of that United States Army video / documentary produced on D-Day. This was produced way back in the late 1940s, and it has a lot of archival footage. It's available through the Smithsonian Archive, and I've linked to that on our Facebook page if you'd like to watch the whole 40-minute video in its entirety. Here's just a bit more on the 78th anniversary of D-Day, as this video was made public today.
But early in the war, plans are made to launch an invasion of this fortress across the English Channel. It is given the code name Operation Overlord. For thousands of American soldiers, the immediate effect of this decision is assignment to Great Britain to participate in the training and build-up of forces to be used in the invasion. Not for all will the transfer be so direct. Some will study invasion on the beaches of North Africa and Sicily and Italy before they ever set foot on French soil. But throughout the winter and spring of 1944, great convoys churn across the Atlantic to British ports. Into Britain they come by the thousands and tens of thousands. England in wartime is the land of blood, sweat, and tears. A nation blackened and battered by the fury of the Nazi Luftwaffe. But it's still England, and for young Americans on their way to war, there is much to see. Wartime Britain is a place supercharged with excitement, literally the crossroads of the world, filled with uniforms from all the nations united in the war against the Axis. But there is work to be done here, and hard work. The grueling days and weeks and months are devoted to it. The training has one specialized objective: how to assault a hostile fortified coast.
Just a bit again from the United States Army video, which was produced in the late 1940s, using a lot of military footage and more from the lead up to D-Day. Again, marking the 78th anniversary of D-Day today. This video was posted online by the Smithsonian Institute. I've linked to it on our Facebook page. It's about 40 minutes long, and as you heard just a bit there at the end, it details not only the events of D-Day and the aftermath, but in the earlier part of the video that you just heard a bit from there, the actual build-up to D-Day, the training that was happening in many parts of Europe, all of it geared at what they knew they were trying to accomplish was to break through the fortified coasts of France and break the Nazi stranglehold on the country. We all know how that went, but this is a lesser-seen side of D-Day, the build-up to. So it's a really informative video. Again, produced by the United States Army, so it's not critical, but it does have a lot of footage and a lot of information about the weeks and months, really, that led up to the events of D-Day 78 years ago. Again, I've linked to it on our Facebook page. Check it out there. It's about 40 minutes long, well worth your time, and we'll be back with more of KVNU's For the People right after this.
Summer is just around the corner. Don't crank up your AC unit before getting it serviced. Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning is the team you should call for quality on-time service. If your system needs replaced, think York. York has the best warranties in the business with affordable financing options. Call Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning at 752-7272 or stop by their showroom west of DI. Online at advancedheating-ac.com.
Comfortable until you are. Advanced Heating and Air.
Independent living, assisted living, home health care. How do you know what's right for your loved one? A visit to Legacy House of Logan is a great place to start. Legacy House is a wonderful place for seniors to be with others who share similar interests. Their various levels of care offer social and recreational activities, delicious meals, medical monitoring, and more in a comfortable home-like environment. Let Legacy House help you help your loved one enjoy the care and comfort they deserve. Learn more at Legacy House of Logan on 1400 North in Logan.
Tuesday edition, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton Show. It is primary day in the state of California. What is going to happen? We will discuss that with all of you, and we'll talk about the latest on inflation. Plus,
progressive prosecutors may be getting a comeuppance. We'll discuss with syndicated columnist Ann Coulter and John Phillips out there in California. That'll be coming up on the Clay and Buck Show, a deep dive on all the latest.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
We're not going to have time to do it justice today, but I'd promised stories of controversy at the start of the show today. We'll do it tomorrow on the show. I'll give you a little teaser, though. The controversy involves a Utah lawmaker, a Republican lawmaker from the Morgan County area, Kira Birkland. A letter she sent out using, this is where the controversy started, she used the legislative letterhead and seal to send out a guide, quote unquote. She sent it to every school district and principal in the state. The problem is, the guide is written by a man named Joel Thornton, who is what I guess you'd call an anti-transgender activist, doesn't believe in it. And the guide had some, I would just say, sketchy recommendations. The governor's office, though, called them dangerous. The guide, in addition to making some unscientific and very unhealthy recommendations to teachers and principals and school districts on how to handle a transgender student, the guide goes further and to say things like we shouldn't be talking about suicide at all, which actually flies in the face of the state's own health policy on schools and how suicide discussions are handled, in which, thankfully, we've embraced a more let's talk about it and be open about it so that people feel like they can come forward. This guide that this lawmaker sent out actually recommends the opposite. It caused a lot of confusion from teachers, principals, and more, and everyone wanted to know, well, okay, why is the state now telling us to do this? Well, turns out it wasn't the state. It was a single lawmaker getting a little over her skis. What happens next, though? Well, this is actually a pretty serious ethics violation. So the question now is, was it intentional, which it kind of looks like, or an innocent accident? Tomorrow on the show, we'll break down what everyone's saying and what might happen to this lawmaker. That's tomorrow on For the People. Dave Ramsey is next here on KVNU Logan.
News and talk around the clock.
I listen to you all the time.
News Talk KVNU Logan, 610 AM at 102.1 FM.